Assassin's Creed Origins has over 130 side quests, but whenever I recall the side quests in this game, there's always one that comes to mind first. It's not the typical kind you'd expect to be so memorable either. It's incredibly brief, there's very little gameplay, in fact the whole thing is almost entirely dialogue, and yet, somehow, this side quest has stuck with me over the years, almost more than any other in the game ever since my first playthrough of Origins. The quest in question is called The Bride, and I think it's a perfect example of why a side quest doesn't necessarily need to be this expansive, sprawling side adventure to be memorable and worthwhile. It doesn't even need to have any gameplay involved to contribute something to the overall experience. Don't get me wrong, quests like that can be great, but something so quick and simple can be just as impactful if done well, and The Bride is proof of that. It tackles some very heavy themes that relate to Origins' main narrative and Bayek as a character, mainly that of grief and finding a reason to keep living, to keep moving forward after a tragedy. And I think this quest is the perfect encapsulation of why I love Bayek as a protagonist. He's a grieving father with a lot of hatred and darkness inside of him, but in many moments in Origins, and the side quests in particular, you can really see what a warm, caring, and empathetic human being he is. You see the Medjay, the protector, the father side of him come out more often, and it's really wholesome and heartwarming to see. If someone were to ask me why Bayek is so likable, I could just show them this quest and they would understand. The Bride is actually a pretty easily missable quest. It doesn't appear on the compass or map. It's a quest you just have to stumble upon, and I usually do in my playthroughs when tracking down a different quest entirely, which I really like because it feels like an organic, spontaneous encounter. Finding a quest or something of the like in a vast open world feels a little more rewarding when you discover it for yourself rather than the game telling you where to find it. Speaking of which, the Bride is found in the Fayum region on the western cliffs of Soknopayo Nessos. When you get nearby, the camera will pan to a woman standing at the edge of a cliff, and as you approach her, you very quickly realize she's contemplating jumping off of it. When you speak to her, she's immediately defensive and exclaims Bayek is not the first person to try to persuade her not to jump. Her husband was killed by a scorpion, and she feels like there's no point in living anymore, like she has nothing left. Bayek handles the situation perfectly. He's very calm, level-headed, and diffuses the tension of the situation almost immediately with a joke.
Nothing matters anymore. The scorpion took my husband's life. There's nothing left for me now.
You could find the scorpion that killed him and kill it.
As we know, Bayek is a vengeful character. That's what's driving him through almost the whole main narrative, and whenever he encounters someone who has experienced loss in a similar way to him, he encourages or helps them seek vengeance as well. But this woman is obviously not going to hunt down the random scorpion in the desert who killed her husband, and it might seem like an insensitive time to joke around, but Tua'a, the woman, mentioned that people had already tried and failed to talk her down from that cliff. So for Bayek to come in and be so casual and nonchalant kind of catches her off guard. In moments of distress like this, having someone around who's cool, calm, and collected helps reassure and put the people around them at ease. Bayek isn't freaking out or desperately pleading with her not to jump. He's not escalating the situation. He's keeping it light, relaxed, and conversational. "Why don't you step away from the ledge? We can talk," he says. Sometimes people just need someone to talk to and want to be heard. Tua'a goes on about how she and her husband would come to this cliff to watch the herons feed their young, while they would dream of having children of their own. But that future she envisioned died with her husband. Bayek knows there's nothing he can say to her that will magically alleviate her pain and grief. Being a grieving father himself, he knows this firsthand, so instead he drops some very hard-hitting wisdom.
You're not very good at this, Medjay. You're not making me feel any better.
There's no way to make you feel better. There's only tomorrow, and then the next day. One moment at a time.
This is the line that's really ingrained in my memory from this quest. It's always resonated with me and made me appreciate Bayek as a character even more. Tua'a knows he's right, but she doesn't think she can face tomorrow. It seems too daunting. So for the first time in the quest, the game gives us back control to obtain a heron feather for her. And right before Bayek leaves, he makes another little playful remark.
I want to show you something. I will return soon. Hey, try not to jump.
I love how that line is delivered. Like, he's kinda serious, he doesn't want her to jump obviously, but again, he's keeping things light and humorous. Like he said earlier, even bitter laughter is better than death. Now, the only way to obtain a Heron feather in Origins is, well, to kill them, which I don't really think is what she would have wanted Bayek, considering the whole story about her and her husband watching the Herons, but hey, I guess it's the thought that counts. The feather is for her afterlife. Bayek gives it to her and tells her that she'll meet her husband in the Field of Reeds someday, but that it's not her time yet, and that he would want her to keep living and find happiness, which is finally enough to convince her to step down from the cliff. What I really love about this quest is we're hearing all the things Bayek has had to say to himself to keep going after losing his son. This woman serves as a mirror for us to better understand Bayek and how he's tried to handle his grief, and he helps her without ever making it about himself. She can tell that he lost someone too. Only someone who's experienced the same kind of pain she has could have such wisdom, but Bayek never brings up his son. He's solely focused on trying to help her. He's really a father to everybody through and through. He views this as part of his duty as a Medjay.
Papa, what is a Medjay really?
The first Medjay was a protector of the Pharaoh. But now, it means you must protect all the people of Egypt. Not just protect them, but work for their well-being.
And he keeps things real with her. He's not just telling her what she wants to hear or useless platitudes. When she asks him, does it get better? He straight up tells her she'll never be the same, but it does get better. You can tell Tua'a is very comfortable talking to Bayek. He's not judgmental at all, he's kind, understanding, and probably the only person she's been able to open up to after her husband's death. Or maybe the only person willing to listen. On the way down from the cliff, she explains that she and her husband eloped after she was tired of living a life sewing carpets for her father, and because of that, her father would probably have no desire to see her again. Bayek insists that may not be the case. Being a father himself, he'd do anything to see his son again, so he suggests the idea of maybe reuniting with her father. But, as is typical in an Origins side quest, the two are ambushed by some leopards. This is the only combat encounter in the whole quest. It's literally like 95% dialogue, but the dialogue is so profound and impactful that it isn't boring. There could be no combat at all, and I think the quest would be just as strong. But maybe the devs thought people would lose interest in such a dialogue-heavy quest without some form of combat. With that near leopard death experience though, Tua'a realizes that she does want to live. It's given her a new perspective, and afterwards she even throws Bayek's own joke back at him.
I'll find that scorpion that killed my husband.
This woman just minutes ago was standing at the edge of a cliff feeling hopeless, and after some brief conversations with Bayek is out here making jokes. It's so wholesome to see. The quest then ends with us escorting Tua'a to the docks, where she plans to start a new life at the theater in Crocodilopolis. And in a lot of games, that would probably be the end of this little storyline. But another thing I love about Origins' side quests is that you can reunite with a lot of the NPCs you meet in them out and about in the open world with additional interactions, which makes the world feel more real and alive, like these NPCs have lives they're living outside of these quests. So you can actually find Tua'a at the theater in Crocodilopolis later on. She's there using poetry as a way to channel her pain and grief. The poem she recites is about the loss of her husband and how she's trying to endure and move forward with her life. When you speak to her, it's clear she's still working through her grief, and she hasn't yet worked up the courage to go back to her father, but she's in a much better place than when we first met her at the edge of that cliff. Bayek saved this woman's life and gave her a reason to keep going when she thought she didn't have any. This is the kind of stuff I love from my side content. It's a very simple, quick little quest. It's like 5 minutes out of a 60+ hour game, but it makes such an impact as this heartwarming, feel-good encounter with a positive message that also helps us better understand and appreciate the person we're playing as. Origins has quite a lot of narrative-focused quests like this that show the warmer side of Bayek more often. They help you further understand why he was a Medjay and so beloved by his people in Siwa. These kinds of quests aren't as common in the other RPG AC games. Of course, they each have their own memorable side quests, particularly Odyssey, but I don't find them to typically be as emotionally resonant as some of the ones that can be found in Origins, like The Bride or Bayek's Promise, for example. Not all the side quests in this game are great, but the narrative-focused ones really stand out in my memory, and I believe greatly contribute to why Bayek is such a beloved character among the Assassin's Creed community. Anywho, I don't normally make videos on specific side quests, but I think this one is special. It's one I've always carried with me, and I felt the desire to properly express why I think that is. I'm curious if you guys feel the same way, or perhaps if there's some others from the game that really stand out or resonate with you. And as always, thank you for watching, everybody. Have a good day.
There's no way to make you feel better. There's only tomorrow, and then the next day. One moment at a time.